Okay, we're going to start looking at how functions can be used to our advantage more than we've done so far. If we look at the course activities here, we've seen that we can define and invoke functions with parameters, arguments, and return values, right? We have these functions, blocks of code that we can pass values into, and they can return values. And now we're going to explain and demonstrate the advantages of functions. Modularity, right? Breaking up a program into modules, into logical groups, and reusability. And so far we've looked at reusability within a program, that I define a function and I can use it within the same program. We're going to talk about a library. And the idea of a programming library is that it's code that can be shared between multiple programs. Okay, so if we go to the libraries section here, the idea is you can define a bunch of functions inside of a JavaScript file. And this JavaScript file won't actually invoke the functions. It's just storing those functions as a repository, right? As a collection of useful functions. And then we can load this JavaScript file into multiple projects that we have. And we can use it in this project, in this project, in this project, whatever useful functions are in here. So as an example of that, we're gonna build two libraries, a math functions library and a graphics library. So the math functions library, we've started on writing a bunch of math functions. We're just going to see how we can use those math functions and how you could load them into multiple projects. And then the graphics library, we've done some graphics there. We're going to kind of optimize some things and make our graphics a little easier to use by creating some useful functions for that as well. So let's get started with the math functions. You should have code from before that we did. Let's see what this looks like. Math functions. I just have the 3 math functions that I did in my video demo here right now. You were supposed to do a bunch more, so hopefully you have those as well. But the idea here is that I've got these wonderful random def, random int, and round2 functions, and I'd like to use them somewhere. Like, remember this? I think we didn't even use these functions. We just tested them with little console.log testing things. Like, where could I use this? So what I'm going to do is, in the video description, I have the start code for Dice Roll Sim Library Start Master. If you open that, what I want you to notice here is, let's make this a little bigger. I've modified the dice roll simulator a little bit. We've still got the function expressions here that we did earlier, but I've added a total rolls, and I'm using that total rolls to calculate a percentage string. So each time we get a new roll, I recalculate the percentage, put that into a string, and tack it on to the inner HTML of our total. So not a big deal, but what I want you to see is I roll, okay, 100%, 50%, and oh shoot, I have to actually recalculate all of them. Anyway, you know what, I made a mistake here. It should be 50-50, of course, right? But I haven't updated that one yet. But that's not the point of this lesson. I'll fix it up later. The point is these nasty decimals, right? I'm calculating the percentage and I'm getting these lousy, so many digits. I'd like to round those off. Well, guess what? If I go to my math functions, and right now it's called main.js. Let's rename that to math library.js. We can call it whatever we want, but I'm going to be really obvious here. This is my math library. You could just call it math.js, but whatever. And I'm going to copy that. I'm going to take it to my Dice Roll Sim library start master and paste it. And there you can see my math library. Okay. Now what I can do is in this project where I load my scripts, I'm going to load mathlibrary.js and then run my main.js. So now by loading that mathlibrary.js, I now have loaded these 3 functions, and they should now be accessible inside of my main.js. And we can even test that. If I go to my console, if I were to type random des13, it works. And why does it work? It works because we've loaded this math library.js into this web page, right here. So these functions are available. So that helps me because now when I do this this calculation right here, total 1 divided by total rolls times 100, I'm actually going to just go round 2, and it'll do this calculation, and then I can go comma 1. Because if you remember, the round 2 function took in a number, and then the number of places you want it to round off to. Cool. So I want to have just one decimal place. And then I'll have to change that to round 2. It'll do the calculation, comma 1, etc. Round 2, comma 1. Yeah, and this function should return the rounded off value, which will then get put into this string. Awesome. Now I still have that mistake of I actually need to reorganize my code, because every time I roll I need to update all the percentages. But I was just trying to come up with a quick example of where I could use my math functions in a program we had already made. So this was my quick attempt. But anyway, it still shows how we can use this round 2 function. And now hopefully when I run this, when we get our rolls, you should notice, yep, the 33.3%, 16.7%. It doesn't do the nasty so many decimal digits. Okay, awesome. So that's using the round 2. Now we can also use right here when I do my roll. Remember we did this math.floor, math.random, blah, blah, blah. I want a number between 1 and 6. Well, my math library has a beautiful random int function, low, high. Low is inclusive, high is exclusive. Okay, easy. So instead of all of this, I'm just going to go random int 1 to 7, right? Because it can include 1 and go up to 7, but not include it. And that's a lot cleaner, random integer from 1 to 7. That's a lot cleaner than having to do all those calculations each time. And that still works beautifully. Awesome. Okay, and then I'm not going to do this, but all I would need to do if I wanted to have another program and I wanted to use my math library, I would do the same thing. Bring the file into my project folder, right? I don't actually have a good example to use here, but if I wanted to use it somewhere else, I would bring it into my, maybe superhero lookup. I think we did something with random there, didn't we? Oh, no, it wasn't. It was selecting. No random there. Anyway, you can use this library in any project, right? Just take that mathlibrary.js, put it into the project folder, load it, and then you have access to that functionality, those functions. Okay, one last little thing I want to show you is that this is good, but all of these functions are considered global functions, right? Index.html, we've loaded the script here. They're global, they're visible everywhere. And sometimes you got to, coding practice, it's good to not clog up the global namespace, because basically now that I've used random int as a function name, if inside of here for some reason I wanted to go, hey, let random int be assigned 5 console.log random int, and let's first console.log random int ahead of time. You'll see why I do that in a second. It's because what's going to happen is when I click, random int is not defined at roll die. Why is it not defined? Okay, hold on, let's try this. This might be an example that's gone bad. Oh, here we go. This is what I wanted actually. This is the problem. This 5, it worked. Let random int be 5, and it did 5. But then it's telling me on line 27, random int is not a function. So right here, I'm trying to use random int. Well, guess what? I just made a variable called random int, which is 5, which is definitely not a function. So essentially, I've just rewritten this random int thing, and it's no longer recognized as a function. In here, it's now the number 5. Anyway, so basically by having this as a global function, I can't use this variable name, and you might run into weird problems because of that. So a solution to that is we've learned about function expressions, and we actually have this wonderful math object, right? Math.random, and it's a global math object, and it's got this random function, math.round, ba-da-da, ba-da-da-da, like so, and it rounds it off. What I'm going to suggest we do is let's turn these into function expressions. I'm going to cut that. And we usually go let random decimal be assigned a function like this. But instead of, this doesn't fix our problem. This is still a global variable. It's just storing a function expression. But instead of going let, I can go math dot random decimal is assigned this function. So I can take the built-in JavaScript math library and I'm going to add a property to it. Right? Just like we had bubble.x, bubble.y. I'm going to go math, which is an object, dot random decimal is assigned a function. So we're basically adding functionality. We're extending the global math object that exists already. So let's put the function there. Math.randomInt is assigned this function. And math.round2 is assigned a function. So now, these are no longer global variables. They're just properties of the math object. So that fixes that problem. And when I use this, I can go, it seems more consistent to me. I'm used to math.random. Let's go math.randomInt. And I'm going to have to replace that here. So I'm going to do a Control H. Wherever I see round2, replace it with math.round2. There's 6 of them, replace them all. And hopefully my program will still work. Mathlibrary.js. Oh, awesome. So of course in my math library, I'm using random decimal here, which is no longer a function. It's math.randomDecimal. And I think that's the only place. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, so roll. Yay, roll 5, roll 10, roll 100. Looks like it's working. And you can see here too, math.randomDecimal is now available as part of the math object. Only in this project though, right? If I were to go to another window, and in here, if I try to go math.randomDecimal, 1 to 100, it says, what in the world is math.randomDecimal? The reason it works in this project is because I have loaded my mathlibrary.js, and my mathlibrary.js is it extend the math object with the following. Right? We're actually taking the math object and adding functionality to it. And because we've loaded that into this web page, it is now accessible in my dice roll simulator. Okay, wow. Hopefully that's pretty cool. Like I said, I loaded my mathlibrary.js into one project, but now I could easily take it and add it into any other project that I have. All we need to do, right, is load this file into my project folder and run that script tag, and it adds the functionality to me. And it's kind of cool that we can add these function expressions, right? We can add on to that math object. I wonder if we're breaking some rules by doing that. The math object maybe is like, what are you doing? But it's only temporary for this project. Okay, I hope that made sense. Like I said, we'll make a graphics library as well, and we're going to use that in 2 programs, the Draw Stickman and the Simple Paint. So hopefully it becomes more clear in that video as well. And the cool thing with this too is that now that I've made this wonderful math library, we can share it with other programmers. They might like to use it too. And we haven't talked about this yet, but the community has tons of JavaScript libraries that we can use in our projects to make things easier. But for now, we're working on building stuff ourselves. Later on, we can add extra functionality if you want. Okay, anyway, that's it for now. Hope that made sense. Take care and see you in the next video.